during the sales session, let's bump ahead to that. Can you define mirroring for us? For those of you, the people that are listening don't understand that. What is mirroring?
Yep. So mirroring is when you subtly mimic the persons that you're sitting across from, their gestures, their tone of voice, their posture, and you'll actually see this a lot of times. Like if you go and sit at a bar and you watch everybody that's there, typically people will be mirroring each other either in a group or if they're sitting just side by side as a couple. It's very interesting to watch. And basically what this does is it signals to our brain that we're similar, right? You and I are alike. And if we think that we're similar to somebody, we like them more and we trust them more. And again, going back to the beginning, people buy with emotions and trust. And so we're constantly trying to build that trust, right? And so the way that our viewers can use this in the sales room is that, like, say you're sitting like this, I would sit like this. If you sit back in your chair, I would sit back in my chair. If you're talking loud and fast and excited, I would do the same.
If I do jumping jacks, will you?
I would do that with you. Yeah.
That would be a first for a live.
We should do that.
Yeah. I don't know if the microphones would like that very well. So when you were talking about mirroring, and that's really a psychological thing. So during that process, you mentioned kind of gentle nudges of nudging your client towards not what you just think they should have, but what they truly need to purchase from that session to make it a great experience. So can you give us some examples of maybe some of those little nudges that you might help them with during the sales session?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, for me, and I think we were going to get to this later, sorry if I'm jumping ahead,
That's
but
fine.
I have all of my sales sessions in my clients' homes, right? And there's a number of reasons, we can get to that later, but it allows me to see their decor, right? And so I can then help them. And one of the questions I ask on the phone call roadmap is, are you an album person or someone who hangs things on the walls, right? So that's kind of the first step. Because yes, I do want them to buy something, but it needs to be something that they are going to love. And so then by going into their home for their sales session, I can see, okay, like their walls are beige, so maybe they like the warmer tones, or maybe they're kind of like a beachy decor, or maybe it's kind of more like a country decor. So like if they're going to buy something framed, we can go based off that, and I can offer suggestions, and this makes them feel like I'm on their side, which I am, absolutely, but then I'm offering suggestions that's like not totally out of left field. Like somebody who has like soft beige tones and country decor is not going to want a metal print.
Yep, something very modern.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, again, for everybody that's listening, and I hope that you really are hearing what Sarah is saying. These things that you're creating during this experience are not earth-shattering. It's just being aware and being suggestive, you know, and walking into somebody's space. Oh, okay, I see that you have a, you know, a modern farmhouse style home. Okay, well that lends itself towards this style. This is what I would suggest for you. Again, keeping that power or that place of authority, I think was the word that you used. That's okay. It's okay to not force, but to suggest. You are the subject matter expert. You are, you know, and clients come to you for that suggestion, for your service, for your skill, obviously, you know, and that's what they want. And if you're not following that all the way through the sales cycle, you're missing out on revenue, on the experience side of it, on the chances of that client coming back, on making yourself feel fulfilled. So it's okay to have authority and to have some power and to sit up straight and to say, this is what I feel you should do.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you agree?
I totally agree.
Awesome. That was my little dissertation there.
I know, I love it. But I want to add on to that, right? Like, so when I go into a sales session, I never expect my client to buy anything, right? I'm always happy if they do. I will suggest things from an authoritative, you know, point of view. But if they choose to go in a completely different direction, I'm not going to be mad at it, you know? Like I'm not going to let my emotions on that direct the sales session.
You're not going to lock the door and keep them
yeah,
there?
I'm going to lock the door and okay, you're going to buy this wall art, okay?
And sit back down.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so another phrase that I thought was brilliant. How do you utilize the question, how open are you about like ... fill in the blank? How do you use that and how does that affect people psychologically from that process?
Yep, and this is actually a good segue because this is something I use when suggesting something, right? So if you can use the phrase, how open are you about wall art? How open are you about turning this into an album? It increases the likelihood of them agreeing with you from 50-50 to 90-10. Meaning like it will give you a 90% chance that they're going to agree with you or at the very least entertain the idea long enough to make an educated decision on this, right?
Yep.
And actually my husband and I joke about it all the time because
You mean this guy over here?
This one, yeah. I use the phrase so often that like it just slips out, but he knows it. And so I'll be like, how open are you to doing the dishes while I sit on the couch and scroll Instagram?
I put that down here. How open are you to doing the dishes while I drink wine and scroll Instagram on the couch?
I love that. And you said LOL.
I did. I added that.
Yeah.
I actually tried that with Kelly. It didn't work.
Oh, it did?
No.
Oh, dang it.
But I tried.
Well, women are smart. So.
Yeah, and she is smart.
Yeah. So next time you're in a sales session and say like maybe you want to suggest an expensive wall display, right? You could be like, how open are you to printing this into a gallery wall or, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And just see how the client reacts to it.
Right.
Again, no expectations to say yes, right? Like it's all about the client. We are serving, not selling.
Right.
But it's a good way to nudge them maybe into a higher sale, you know, if you think that that's going to benefit them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And not from a position of pressure.
No.
It's really serving that client and helping them design something that they truly should have and maybe don't have the tools to put it together.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't put it in here, but I did see it in your notes. You had a client specifically in reference to that in a really big sale from a gallery wall. Is that something that you can talk about a little bit about how you use that to increase that sale? Like during your, that would be fantastic.
Sure. So I had a client sale, I think it was my highest to date, it was over $16,000. It was a wall gallery. And it's funny because, so when I go to a client's home for their sales session, it also allows me to see their walls. So if they're interested in printing something and hanging something, I can see the spaces that they're thinking about doing that in. I have a little app on my iPad, take a picture, do a little mock-up, right?
Yep.
And that's extremely helpful because the client often doesn't know what a 16 by 24 looks like.
Right.
They have no concept.
They think
of that
this
size.
is an 8 by 10.
Yes, they do, right?
They do.
So what I do is actually I take an 8 by 10 as reference for size, stick it up there with tape. They see how tiny it looks, right?
Yep.
Take a picture of that, and then I can do my mock-ups from there. And so with this client, she had pointed out a few different walls. There was one wall in the basement. It was like this beautiful wood, like distressed wood background. And she was like, well, I thought about displaying something here. So I made mock-ups, as I do, before I left for my sales session. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make like a shoot the moon mock-up is what I call it. And this is a mock-up where it has so many canvases that I don't think that they're going to go for it. Like, it's a lot of canvases. I think this one had like 13 canvases or something like that. Anyway, showed her all of the other mock-ups, showed her the shoot the moon mock-up, and she loved the shoot the moon mock-up. And so I was
awesome.
like, okay. Like, so it just goes to show you that you don't know what your client is going to like, and they don't know what they're going to like until they see it.
Right.
And it's really important.
And you're not selling to yourself.
No.
You know, you thought that was a stretch, but to her, that was really what she wanted, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody that listens to these knows that I'm a car guy. You know, like when you walk into a high-end car dealership, they don't put the scaled down model on the floor. They put the Mercedes AMG with the fancy wheels and seats, and you know they make you fall in love with that first, and then they're like, oh, do you actually want tires with that?
Yeah.
You know, like, so you really have to think about it from a merchandising perspective. Now, one thing that you did not say that I want to make sure that you do before we move on from this, when you go from 50-50 to 90-10, there's something that happens in your head, and you haven't said the words on that yet. And I won't put you on the spot, but you said to me, people don't want to be not open to things.
That's right.
So can you just briefly touch on that before we move on, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. So people like to think of themselves as open-minded, especially when the alternative is to be not open or closed-minded, right?
Yeah.
And so when we do preface a question with how open are you, it shifts that, and they're like, oh yeah, you know what, I am open-minded, so let me think about that, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of gives them pause.
Right.
To do that.
And again, for everybody that's listening, that little nugget right there is a really good thing to keep in mind, you know, when you're in your sales session, and sometimes it's hard, you know, you get nervous, and it's your art, and it's somebody that you have worked with and you're presenting these, to be able to just say that, how open are you to that, you know, and let them process. It's not necessarily a yes or no question. It's something that requires a response of sorts. So that's a good one. So make sure everybody keeps track of that one. Okay, so let's talk about your fave. Okay, let's talk about perceived value.
Yes.
Okay, because I love this. We're going to talk about the album that you just saw being made out in the lab a little bit, but tell us like your theory on perceived value.
Yep. Yeah. So just to kind of go over what perceived value is it's basically how someone perceives an object or a service. But it's based on things like, how does it look? How does it feel? How heavy is it? It can be based on pricing, right? And so we can use perceived value in our products, right? We can say, so like, let's go back for a second. Matt, if I were to tell you that this mug was $6.99, you would perceive it to be
average. Or less than average.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I were to tell you that this mug is $350, you would perceive it to be?
Definitely a very, very nice thing, and it better be wine in there.
Yes.
Yeah, or taste like wine.
It tastes like wine, right? Exactly, right? So we can use that to our advantage, right, when pricing our products, because the funny thing is that price alone can tell somebody a lot about a product, right? Yep. And so, like for me, I priced my signature or my heirloom albums, my highest album, at $2,500. So that signals to my client that this is a good product. This is a quality product. This is handmade, and I want this. Because another funny thing is that, and I fall into this all the time, even though I know that it's a thing, is that I want the thing that's high priced just because it's expensive. Like it's expensive and therefore I want it, right? Yes. And I fall into that all the time. And so, again, we can use that with our albums.
Right.
For me, I have a smaller size that's 1900. I have a bigger size that's 2500. And oftentimes people go for the bigger album because it's expensive and they perceive it to be better.
Right. And I will say again, to make this all about me, like if I'm looking for something online specifically, I will skip over the really inexpensive ones because my brain automatically tells me that's not something that's quality. You know, or if I'm looking on eBay, I automatically set the sort to most expensive first.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, okay, well, this is the stuff everybody wants, and I want to start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I said, textbook consumer.
Yep.
Okay, so in the world of perceived value, so you just saw this album being made, so now you have a completely different appreciation for this process.
Yep.
But when you're talking about, you know, handing this to somebody, the weight, the feel, the price tag.
Yep.
So let's just kind of flip through this here quick. So just your perspective now that you've seen this being made, Sarah, like what would you use back in your sales sessions with your clients if you were going to explain the process?
Absolutely. I would think for me, I would stress more so that it's handmade than anything.
Yep.
You know, like I knew that before, but seeing it made by hand, meeting the people who are doing it, like it's incredible to see like the craftsmanship that goes into it and the quality and like the knowledge that goes into, you know, all of the things that they do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, before I was here full time, I mean, I had the studio, I've been using the products forever. I didn't imagine that there was a magic button that they just pushed and the thing came out the other end, but I had no idea of the number of hands that actually touches this and the handcraft. Like there's probably no less than 10 people that worked on this product, and it's getting in and out of here in 48 hours.
Yeah, which is incredible.
It is incredible, yeah. You know, and this has the white premium leather, which is awesome, and those covers are all hand done. We added your dye to the back here, or the debossing to the back, and the white on white. So, but you know, when you think about weight, and perception of value, you know.
Yep. And that's something that people can use in the sales room. This is legit something that I do. When I am presenting my products to my clients for something, you know, for them to mull over and to think about, I will hand them the album and I will hand it to them higher because, go ahead and take it from me. Okay. When you do, it's like the gravity of it makes it a little heavier, just a little bit, right? And I can't tell you how many times my clients will be like, oh my, this is heavy.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I like that. I just learned something. That's fantastic.
Another pricing tip before we move on, because I'm getting excited now.
Yes,
okay.
me too.
So going off of perceived value in pricing, a lot of photographers think that they need to take the cost of the product and then add all these formulas onto it and blah, blah, blah. And then they come out to a price that's like $149.89, right? But if you think about it, most of the products that we buy from Target, Walmart, the cheaper options end in 99 cents or 95 cents, right? And so subconsciously it signals to our brain that that's cheaper, they're trying to nickel and dime me, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas if you price your product in whole round numbers, $350, $2,500, it signals luxury. If you go on any luxury website right now, Louis Vuitton shoes, Ferrari, whatever, you'll see their whole round numbers, and that's for a purpose.